And on the line, we've got the Fremantle Dockers Executive General Manager of Football, Peter Bell, as trade week starts to really crank up. Peter, thanks for your time tonight.
Good evening, Mark.
Let's start off with a deal that has been done. Blake Acres off to Carlton. It's been quoted in some parts as being the steal of the trade period after, of course, he went to the Blues for a future third-round selection. How do you sit with the deal that was done today?
Yeah, obviously sit pretty comfortably. Blake came across from St Kilda as a sort of supplementary part of a deal that involved, Brad Hill and some high picks, and in that time was a valued member of our team. As it turns out, he was able to reach agreement and get an offer from Carlton, both of a duration and of a quantum that we weren't able to match. So given the circumstances, we were okay for Blake to pursue that opportunity, obviously out of contract as well, and the compensation we received was that future third-round pick.
Peter, Will Schofield here, mate. Blake Acres, from my point of view on watching you guys play, has played a pretty important role for you this season, a season in which you've won a final and looks like the footy club's in a really good position. How do you replace someone like Blake? Do you have people to step into a role he's been playing this year?
Yeah, as you know, Will, the wing is a really tactical position. It's one of those positions on the field where sometimes you can do all the right things and barely touch the ball, and then other weeks you can get a lot of it. And Blake really executed that role well in 2022, particularly some of the best football of his career. So one of the considerations we had in Blake potentially leaving was what sort of cover that we had in those wing positions, and we're really comfortable with James Aish, Nathan O'Driscoll covering those roles. We think there's also opportunity there for a player like Liam Henry, potentially. Carl Warner's another one, and we've got a lot of running halfbacks like Chapman, Young as well. Potentially, or Jordan Clark's another that we think will provide us adequate cover on the wing. So we have a bit of depth there, and that was one of the other things that we took into account in doing the deal with Carlton.
It hasn't been confirmed yet, but Griffin Logue and Darcy Tucker look to be making their way to North Melbourne, if that's to be signed off on maybe tomorrow. Are they in similar ilk to a Blake Acres in terms of playing a role for you guys this year, and they're effectively out the door at the end of the year?
Yeah, a little bit different. So I'll deal with them individually. Griffin was obviously a high draft pick and had played some good footy down back for us, and some really key matchups on players like Charlie Curnow and Jeremy Cameron spring to mind, but it became a real utility for us in playing forward and filling a need for us there, and performed to a really high level, obviously finishing sixth in our best and fairest. So disappointed to lose Griffin. Clearly North Melbourne came really strongly for him, and he's chosen to pursue that opportunity. Darcy, we had an agreement that for whatever reason he probably hadn't reached the consistency that he wanted and we wanted for him as well. He applied himself really diligently, a real professional, very popular player. But we just decided that if there was an opportunity with Darcy, if there was an opportunity that he wanted to pursue, that we were able to get some sort of adequate compensation for, we thought that was in the best interest of everyone, particularly given Darcy also had some personal situation, which meant that a move back to Victoria would have been pleasing for him. So North Melbourne also interested in Darcy, so we've managed to trade the pair of Darcy and Griff. It was a difficult negotiation for us, Will, given that obviously North Melbourne had the first pick in the pre-season draft. Negotiations were done really well between Brady Rawlings and David Walls, but we didn't have a lot of leverage with regards to Griff in really pushing that trade, given that if things deteriorated, which there was no indication that they would, but if they did, then North Melbourne could simply select Griffin with the first pick in the pre-season draft and we get no compensation. So in the circumstances, the fact that we've ended up with a future 2 and a future 3 was, in the circumstances, was okay.
There's been some pretty strong language from the footy club around Rory Lobb and his contractual situation for next year, and probably equally as strong language from his manager and Colin Young about him wanting to leave and new opportunity, I guess, at another club. Is there any situation where Rory isn't at the football club next year, or is he a 100% a Freo player next year?
Yeah, look, it's a challenging situation, that one, Will. Rory also has pulled to head to Victoria from a personal situation, but the complexity, and we're certainly not completely heartless to that and that situation, but given that we've lost a player that we've been using as a key forward in Griff in this trade period, and given that we're probably a little bit inexperienced in our key forward area, that makes it really challenging. And not to mention also that, Rory's been a focal point of our attack and played really, really well this year for almost a couple of goals a game, that ability to go into the ruck as well. They are almost impossible to replace, those types of players who can hit the scoreboard and go into the ruck like that. So for that reason, you can see how it's really complex.
We've talked about a few of the players locked that are head out the door, and Lob's still with a question mark. But what about incoming players? Because Dockers supporters are maybe a bit concerned as to some of the talent leaving. But let me throw a couple at you. Josh Corbett from the Gold Coast and Anthony McDonald, Tipperwoody. Is that just trade talk, or is there something behind that?
Oh, there's been a really brief conversation, I understand, between Anthony and JL. So there's a lot of water to go under the bridge there, but Anthony expressed an interest in continuing his AFL career, and a player of his calibre, you're always wanting to explore potential opportunities, but they're at a very, very early stage, and even his transition back into AFL football is a little complicated as well. So I think that if a player like him gets back into the AFL, that's great for fans. But look, it's at a very, very early stage as to what possibilities there might be there for Anthony. Josh has indicated that he would like to continue his AFL career with us. So we think that he'd fill a really valuable need for us, particularly given Griffin has left. We do need forward depth. He's a really strong leading player who has performed really well when he's given AFL opportunity. Obviously, at the Gold Coast, he's fallen behind Ben King and Marvior Chol and Levi Casbolt, to name a few. And so he sees some opportunity with us. And obviously now it's on us to try and facilitate a trade for Josh. But we had the opportunity to meet him and his partner over the weekend, and we think he'd be a really good fit. So hopefully that can eventuate.
Bally, what's the deal that gets Luke Jackson to the footy club?
Well, it'd probably be a big one, Will, that's for sure, for a young player who is a really unique player, a rising star winner at Melbourne in his first couple of years. So, we know that there's going to be multiple picks involved, and we know that he's really keen to come to Western Australia. So we'll keep having those conversations with Melbourne and also with his management, and we'll see what eventuates. But look, he is a player that we're really interested in bringing in, and we think he's pretty unique. So we'll be excited by that prospect.
And so, in terms of the trade period that you're a part of, footy club itself, are you feeling as if, obviously, you'd like to be on the plus side of whatever goes out that comes in? So, for Dockers supporters, fair to say that you're going 100% to try and get players into the club to add to what was already achieved this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, clearly there's, it's never nice when players want to pursue their opportunities elsewhere for whatever reason, and that happens from time to time. And we've got a small group, obviously, are exploring opportunities elsewhere. But with this comes opportunity to potentially bring in some other players as well who are very keen to play at Fremantle, and also to provide opportunity for some of the talent that we have on our list, players like Jai Amos, players like Neil Erasmus, Matthew Johnson. I mentioned Liam Henry before, and look, I don't want to leave out any others because there are a number of others who deserve opportunities. So with these list spots that free up and the prospect of them either being filled by other players from other clubs or draft picks, there will be lots of opportunities, and hopefully some fresh faces and new players are able to grab those opportunities and really excite the Freo faithful.
Last one from me, Peter. Is there a chance of potentially chasing big name or big contract players? Let's put Luke Jackson in there, given how, highly he's valued in the open market. Is there a chance that disturbs club culture? We've seen Blake Acres today speaking on behalf of Carlton and his move that perhaps he didn't feel prioritised during contract talks with Freo. Is there a chance that chasing bigger dollars with bigger players disrupts what you already have at Freo this year?
Yeah, there's always that possibility. Not talking about us particularly here, Will, but when you bring in new faces, but you try and have really open dialogue with your playing group, and you try and budget and make offers accordingly to what is fair. The TPP is a difficult thing to manage, but if there's a strong trust with the nucleus of your playing group, they understand that you're always acting in the best interests of the club, and you're always acting in the best interest of trying to win a premiership, which are incredibly elusive and difficult to attain. So you want to bring in quality, but you also don't want to upset that balance, which you speak of as well. And we think with the moves that we're making, we've got that balance in mind. We're not always going to be able to please absolutely everyone. That's the nature of this industry. But we think that we're doing the right thing for the footy club in order for us to continue climbing the ladder, hopefully.
Peter, appreciate the information and spending some time giving your Dockers supporters and our listeners an insight as to how Trade Week is tracking. Hopefully speak to you shortly.
No problems. Thanks, guys.